then what can we do? Because I think because you just situated it now, because sometimes when we talk about timing, you just don't even know that it's huge. Even for 5 minutes emergency, it is huge. But now it's letting us know that, look, you can as well leave the continent in 5 hours.
Yes,
in Europe, in fact, the heart of London.
Exactly.
And the police can't even possibly come to a Riyom community, another small community somewhere around the plateau. What can we do? Because this is always the narrative. From years down the line, this has always been the case. They hit, they go back, and that's when help comes.
Yes, indeed. I tell you what we can do. The solutions are all there for us to see. And I was really inspired by the posture of the IG when he gave that presentation. I knew that here we have a thinker, but he may probably have doers as subordinates.
How do you mean doers?
Yes, let me give you the difference between a thinker and a doer. A doer reacts, a thinker responds. Yes.
So the thinker is ahead.
Yes, indeed. You see, there's a Japanese proverb that says, Yo Shinai, Yo Kengai. It means good thinking, good product. So if you think and get it right from the drawing board, you are going to bring it out the way it is in your head, because you've thought properly about it. But if you just react because it just happened and we have to be seen to do something, then you are going to do things that probably will even question your competence.
And that is what we get.
Yes. Now, how can we begin to breach these deficiencies? The first key thing are outposts. I recognize the fact that the police can never have enough men to spread across the entire landmass of this country. But then the outposts, there have to be people out there. And then the second key thing is communication. Communication is key. If Fulani cattle herdsmen can have mobile phones and communicate themselves and arrange themselves and do what they do, then we can also have outposts. We can have people out there who can call. Then when it comes to response, we may claim that these remote areas are far flung from the urban areas or the local government headquarters where everything seems to be, but then there are camps. If Julius Berger can build a camp at short notice and put a road through the most remote parts of this country, then we can also have what you call rapid response camps.
It's interesting. I mean, in Plateau State right now, there has been some measures to provide security so that if you're traveling along the road from Jos all the way to Shendam down to Kwampan, you know, like you're going towards Lafia, you definitely see camps along the road of soldiers and policemen, you know, along at different points. In fact, they have checkpoints along that road. So people are already used to having them. At some point, there was a protest that the soldiers should leave, you know, that they were not seeing the benefit of having the soldiers there with them. There was some protest by women, I think was that last year or 2 years ago. So it was seen that this violence has been reoccurring, and at some point they began to suspect some complicity with the soldiers. We don't know what exactly the situation is right now, whether or not, you know, there is still that heavy security presence along the major roads, or have they been taken away, or, you know, what exactly is going on with the communities as well, and what could be fueling this attack. Because it was only recently too that the Benue State government said that they don't think that these Fulani herdsmen are the normal Fulani herdsmen that they have been seeing, or is the situation of Jos different?
Indeed. Let me answer your question on 3 fronts. Let us start with the question of whether the Fulani herdsmen are the same Fulani herdsmen they've been seeing. It still points the direction to our thinking stereotype. You see, 20, 30 years ago, the land tenure system in Nigeria afforded us what we call shifting cultivation as a means of farming. You could just farm here today. When it is no longer fertile, you move to another place. Then we could also do bush fallowing. You allow your land to fallow. It's not possible today because the population has grown. The wider the population spreads, the less the arable land they have available to them. That's on the farmer side. They also less the pastoral lands that are open to the cattle herd. So our cattle men are actually having problems, and you are seeing them responding violently because there is not enough room for their cattle to graze, and probably even the river lines are not enough for their cattle to drink from. So we are seeing a situation where the population is growing, but the land mass is not growing, and that brings us to the issue of our leaders being doers and not thinkers. By now, the rancher's option should be gradually introduced to the herdsmen.
Because they should have seen what's happening in some of these states that are having clashes.
Exactly. Rather than have you follow the rain from here to Senegal grazing, and along the way you see that people have decided to buy up the lands and build, people have decided to farm up the lands and you can't graze, the Fulani man's cow is his lifeline. So he's going to defend it even to the level they are doing now. If you take the cattle out of him, he goes extinct. So why don't we give them options? Look, you can ranch your cattle and even have better fed cattle, healthier cattle, and make more money, and even more cattle. Your cattle can proliferate faster.
In addition to this point that you just raised, it just occurred to one, wondering, when some of those who they catch, because they tell us time and again that few people were caught here and there, when they extract information from these people, if they do, what do they do with it? How do they process it? What's the chain that it goes through?
Most of the time, from the ones I have logged, they are killed. Well, I have seen suspected militants killed, suspected cattle Fulani who attacked these police, guns them down in an exchange.
So they're attacking the symptom and not the cause.
Exactly. You see, when you kill the problem, you've taken it back to square one. You have to look for another one. Yes, it's like treating, it's like inventing a vaccine. You have to isolate a case. If you don't isolate one case and understand how the virus behaves, you just, anybody that has AIDS, kill him. You're not going to get there. So this morning we said we saw something like 38 Boko Haram militants or so have been killed. And I was wondering, when are we going to get one specimen? One we can put under the searchlight and really get information from.
Because that's what we need.
That's what we need. If he refuses to talk, there are forensic laboratory tests you can do, even to his guts, to know what he's been eating and where there's a prevalence of that kind of food. The boy Adam, whose head was removed in the Thames River in England, they found him all the way back to Delta State with the food in his stomach.
These things sound basic and simple.
Very simple indeed, but we are not thinking.
What about
doers?
Look at this scenario where they were supposed to install security cameras
in the house,
even on the streets, Lagos or Abuja, some other places. And look at the stories we hear about it.
Exactly, that's what I'm saying, that we have to gravitate from the doing level to the thinking level. And as I said, the Japanese have concluded. They've said it all, that yo shinai, yo ikengai. Good thinking, good product. So, coming to the soldiers on the roads, as you were saying, it's not about the roads. The cattle herd, the nomadic Fulani, has no use for roads. They don't even live in houses as we see. They stay in settlements, and they can break camp and move depending on where the grasses grow. So you have to see a situation where, if you are able to log your report and see the areas where the attacks have been taking place, and you plot them on a map of Plateau State, you are going to see a prevalence. You are going to see a design. And if you just use the compass to draw a cycle around that place, those who are doing the killing are not far from there. They need to do these things on foot. If they needed to do it on road, the soldiers on the roads would have arrested them. But I told you they are nomads. So they do it on foot. And because of the limited timelines, most of the attacks, up to like 92% on my own logs, are done in the wee hours of the morning.